Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 163 with Susie Carder. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Wander Wealthy Podcast. My name is Tess. I am your host, and today I am bringing you a very intense interview. It's not intense, but it is so worth your time and your money, although this is free, but you gotta make time to listen to this podcast episode. I am interviewing Susie Carder, who is the founder and owner and builder of multi-million-dollar companies. Susie started out as a low-paid hairdresser, trying to support her two daughters, but she knew that working for someone else was going to be a big challenge. So she decided to do whatever it took to create her own business. And she shares a lot about this story, but long story short, so that you guys can listen to it through Susie's own words, is that she built two $10 million companies. Her core genius is the ability to simplify complicated issues by creating simple, proven systems that are guaranteed to create dramatic growth for any company. She has helped over 100,000 entrepreneurs increase their revenues, and she's worked with top business moguls, including Lisa Nichols, Steve Harvey, and the Paul Mitchell. Her newest book, Power Your Profit, is a bulletproof start-to-finish plan for taking your business from startup mode to the multi-million-dollar mark. Now, this interview is so fire. Like, I never thought that I'd be able to interview someone like Susie, and so I was just so excited to get into her brain and understand how she even thinks about money. And as is always important for this podcast, I really wanted to understand how Susie grew up around money and how she was able to, switch into this $1 million business owner mindset. Because especially if you listen, you'll see that Susie did not grow up in a, very fortunate situation. And even in her early years in her career, she wasn't making that great of money. And so to be able to go from that to now running and serving entrepreneurs in running their own multi-million-dollar companies, like, there's a lot of jumps and shifts that have to take place. We also talk about something that comes up a lot for me and my clients in regards to managing your finances as a business owner. And so I posed to Susie, is it possible to fully outsource all the money decisions and money activity in your business? And you'll want to stay tuned to hear Susie's answer to that. She also dropped some extremely valuable tips and things to think about and even ask your clients when you're on a coaching call with them, and how you can utilize your clients' words and your clients' feedback to actually, price your services and feel so much better about the value that you're providing. And so you got to stay tuned for that as well, because gosh, just listen to all of this. It is going to be so worth your time, energy, effort, and even money. But again, this is free. So let's not waste any more time. I'm going to dip you right into this week's episode, number 163, with Susie Carder. Susie, welcome to the Wander Wealthy Podcast. I am honored to have you on the show today, and I would love to kick off this week's episode by having you share your story and let us know. I know, you've been doing business for a long time, so the condensed version of your story and how you got to where you are today.
I love that you say that, because you give a speaker a microphone and we can go on and on and on. So thank you, Tess. First, I appreciate it. Thanks for what you're doing for us in the world. And I say us as entrepreneurs, really navigating the financial landscape, if you will, of a business, right? The financial foundation is the full foundation of your business, because if we're not making money and keeping money, then we don't really have a business. So I am a serial entrepreneur, and I chose to be a serial entrepreneur because nobody is the boss of me. I was never really a good employee. I'm not even going to lie. Independent thinker. I was always the kid getting in trouble in class. Maybe some of you can relate to that. And I found myself, in a awful marriage. I got married young. And so I was broken. and, left that relationship. My babies were 6 months old and 18 months old, and left with nothing, no alimony, no child support, and really had to create something. Mm-hmm. My vocation was I was a hairdresser, and really put all my energy in building that business, building a clientele so I could take care of my children. I'd like to say it was way more glamorous than that, but it was really a place of survival and needing to provide for my family. But the gift in that, I believe there's always a gift that's wrapped in sandpaper. The gift in that is I learned and understood the power of being an entrepreneur. That if I put work in, I got a financial reward. The more I studied, the more I implemented marketing strategies, the more I put a financial plan together and followed that plan, financial reward came to me. And so as a hairdresser, I did $250,000 a year, 3 days a week. And then other hairdressers were saying, how do you do that?
Yeah, how do you do that?
How do you do that? And so I started doing little cluster classes just to help my community and my tribe. And then they would say, oh, do you have a book? I'm like, no, I'm a hairdresser. I'm just trying to help you out. I was so irritated. No.
I don't have time to write a book.
Right. Or the skill set, right? Had a huge negative conversation about what I could do and couldn't do, but my community kept asking. So I figured out how to write a book. And there's there's a course for everything. And especially now, this generation, right? We have a course for everything. So I bought a book and figured out how to write the book and got the book published. I got turned down by the publisher in our industry. And so I'm like, fine, you don't like me? I'll start my own publishing company. So we created our own publishing house, which was Carder Creative Enterprises. And we published 10 books and multiple online courses. This is back in the day. I'm aging myself, Tess. CDs, DVDs, right? Even back in the cassette tape days. That's what a diehard I am.
Nice.
And then built the largest training and development company in the beauty industry and sold that to the largest publisher, one of the largest publishers in the world. Mm-hmm. And I say that because if I can do it, anyone can do it. It starts with a plan. You've got to have your plan. It starts with really determining who your ideal qualified client is. I think so many entrepreneurs, Tess, I'm seeing we have a lot of fans, but not a lot of clients. Fans are the people that love and adore you and yay, we love Tess and she's great. And an ideal qualified client is, yay, we love Tess, she's great, and I'm going to pay her.
Right.
And so really distinguishing that. So for the last 15 years, I've been working with entrepreneurs, just doing what I did for myself in owning salons and spa. We started the largest technology company in the beauty industry, built the largest training company in the beauty industry, and then now working with entrepreneurs for the last 15 years on their money strategies, their financial strategy in their business. It's all about the business, right? And looking at how do I make money, leverage money, grow money, and more importantly, profit inside of your business. Yeah. The profit, we always say profit is the value that you bring to the business. Profit is not what's left over.
Right.
That profit is truly your paycheck, inside of the business on top of your compensation, right? So we have compensation in your business, but then profit is the value that I'm really creating as a business. Because if there's no profit, we can't sell a business. You can't sell a business, then we own a big fat job. Nobody wants to own a big fat job.
That's so true. And I think a lot of people, when they get into building a business, I mean, there's so many things I want to ask you right now, but we'll focus on this profit conversation because when they get into owning a business, they think they're probably not even thinking about profit. A lot of times, especially when they're, thinking about like, I'm going to just like, my audience is a lot of online coaches, more service-based, and even in the earlier days of business ownership. And for some of them, they didn't go through business school. Maybe they didn't go through those financial courses. And even if you did, you don't think about how it applies to you and how it's going to apply to your business. And so then when it comes to profit and like, oh, you should add a little more than what, if you were working a job and charging an hourly rate, which you shouldn't even do that in terms of pricing, but like, let's just use this as a simple example. And then it's like, add a little on top for profit. We immediately go, oh my gosh, no, like that's bad. Profit is just like what the greedy corporations
Right.
create. But it's like it's required. I always think about it because I come from the personal finance space and educating in the personal finance space. I think of profit as those are the dividends that I make for being a shareholder. If I'm buying a stock in a company, in a lot of cases, you'll receive a quarterly dividend. And it might be small because I only own like 10 shares,
Right.
but I get like a couple dollars here and there. If I owned way more, I'd get even more. And in the case of your business, you own 100% of the shares for the most part, if you're starting it out all by yourself hustling.
Yes.
And you deserve to get that big fat dividend.
Yes.
So the conversation is interesting because you have to take people from, really being able to break down their business and think about it as a business. And I think, even before you get people to think about like maybe they're owning a big fat job, even before that, I think sometimes we get lost in the minutia of a lot of the other kind of business building coaches and courses out there that are talking about following your passion and, creating an impact, which is important, but you have to make money at the end of the day too, in order to keep it going. What do you have to say to them?
Well, one is I love that you're talking about their personal finance, because that's where it all begins, right? One of the biggest challenges I see with entrepreneurs now is their pricing strategy, and they're not including profit in their pricing strategy, right? So they're just saying, oh, here's my time, here's my expenses. And then hopefully they've done that kind of rudimentary pricing. But I always say, let's put profit inside of your pricing. And I've learned this the hard way. Most of my teachings come from me being silly or naive and just not knowing, either losing money, being sued, not charging enough, not having a pricing strategy with profit, right? Really looking at what does my base price have to be like, no kidding, in order for the business to be profitable. The reality is, if we don't have profit in the business, we can never sell our business. And ideally, you want to build a business to sell it. Now, you can keep rebuying that business and you can keep rebuying it over and over again, or you can build it to sell it to somebody else. So from day one, I'm a student of Michael Gerber. And are you familiar with him?
Not so much, no.
Oh my God. Best little book in the history of publishing outside of, some other ones. But it's called The E-Myth, which is the entrepreneur's myth.
Right.
And I got a hold of that very early in my, career. And he talked about setting it up as a business that you could sell. So I'm a systems queen and I'm a creative. And most people in this industry are a creative. And so if I leave it to my creativity, I'm going to keep creating new products. I'm going to keep creating new procedures. I'm going to keep creating, new programs because I'm a creator. But systems allow me to, in order to get the result, I have to do step 1, 2, 3, 4, which then gives me more freedom, which then gives me more creativity, which then gives me, the ability to train other people to do it. So you want to really think about your business as if it was going to be a franchise. Because when you think about it from that standpoint, Tess, then I'm looking at how do I put this together so Tess can come in and do this, so that Sam can come in and do this, so it doesn't always rely on my shoulders. Luckily, I found that book early on. And from, just being a hairdresser, I systematized everything, opening one of the top salons in the country, systematized it, the training and development. The only reason why the company bought my business for multi-million dollars is because everything was systematized and I had profit. So you want to look at, how do I create it from day one? Right. And day one can be today. If you've been in business for a long time and you're like, but Susie, I've been in 5 years. Perfect. Let's treat today like day one. How can you leave a roadmap for yourself and for the next team member? Because if I look at most entrepreneurs, we're stuck in doing 80% of the job, right? And only 15% of your financial success is based on the technical ability. The other 85% is everything else you and I are talking about: sales, marketing, operations, and finance. To go, wow, I'm stuck as the technician in my business. If we take the time to systematize it and document it, then I can hire other people. So Susie, am only working on the highest income producing activity only I can do. We're doing so much minutia that isn't bringing you in the higher dollars.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting here is like you're able to hold that big vision. You've done it, and you coach some amazing individuals through their own businesses. How do how would you talk to someone who is only bringing in that 10,000 per year, and it's really hard for them to have the vision of being able to sell their $10 million company, and instead, and maybe I think we have two issues. One is someone who is just starting out and just really like they are working a lot in their business because maybe they don't have the capacity, financial resources to hire someone and start systematizing, or passing those systems along to another person. And it's hard for them to even see that vision of getting to that point. And also the other thing that holds them back is really the patience. Like they could also be so excited for that long-term vision that then they're kind of beating themselves up because it's not happening right now. So kind of two questions, like how do we have the patience, but also for those who are only keeping the vision in mind, and for the people who struggle to see the vision, how do they still go about building a business versus building a job for themselves?
Perfect. So the first thing that I'm going to just recommend, and probably 85% of my clients when I start working with them have no plan. Mm-hmm. And when I say plan, I'm looking at their business plan. Now, most people go, I don't want to do it. It's too hard. It's not hard. There's amazing software now that just ask the question and then you answer the question, ask the question, answer the question. But you've got to really get it out of your head. Like when it's done, what does it look like? We've got to be able to turn our, what I call our wanters, like our wanters back on. We, from a very early age, we were told no, 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 no. So we start lowering our expectation. We stop asking because we don't like the word no. I don't like the word no either, but I just know now I've just been trained that no doesn't mean right, not now. No just means give me more information. Obviously you don't understand what I'm offering, or you would not say no. This makes no sense. You're saying no.
Yeah.
So the business plan, there's several different softwares out there that we use. Now, I wrote a business plan. I was not a professional plan writer. That's not my genius, right? But I had to get it out of my head first. And we took that business and I created a $40 million plan. Scared me. That's big. Now, we didn't do 40 million. We only did 10 million. But I don't know. Would you take 10 million? I would take 10 million. Right? So I got to be in a place of creativity to go, what would it look like? Where would we make the impact? How would we make money? And then in the plan, you have to look at, well, what's the budget to create that business? How much would it cost to, let's say, hire you? What would it cost to hire somebody like me? What would it cost to hire a marketing person? So then you can see, oh, then my pricing has to be based on this. Even if you're only grossing $10,000 a year, right? My book called Power Your Profits is all about taking a business from 10,000 to 10 million. I started from nothing, but I had a plan and I had a budget. So your first budget is what's my overhead? My first budget was how do I feed my children and pay my rent, right? How do I take care of myself? And I knew like I knew every day, every week, every month, what I had to produce in order to be able to live my life. And then as I did my minimum needs, then I started stretching. Okay, now I want to be able to have a little more freedom. Okay, now I want some new shoes. Okay, now I want my kids to have new shoes. Okay, now I want them in a better school. Okay, now. And so each time that my budget shifted, my plan shifted. I needed more customers, or I needed more customers to spend more money with me. Mm-hmm. I think right now when you look at, some of us are working so hard. You have enough people in your database, right? Let's look at being more effective with each person. I don't need a ton of people. I just need the right people, right? That goes back to that qualified ideal client. To where is that person that loves and adores me and is willing to pay me, and that I love and adore them, because all money is not good money. We've all had clients that all money was not good money. We did something with money because we had to pay some bills. And I remember Tess going, I don't ever want to be in that position again. That feels awful, right? So the plan is the foundation. Take the time to write the plan. take the time to really play and turn your wanter back on. And what does that look like? The second thing is then you have your budget to go, what do I need to do every week, every day, every month, every quarter? And when I'm freaking out, because I freak out, right? I freak out like everybody else. I go back to my plan. My plan gives me breath. My plan gives me ease to go, oh, I knew sales would dip right here, right? When I just stay in my head and get all freaked out and don't look at what did I say I was going to do, then I can go, oh, I can talk myself off the ledge, right? Or have a great coach, right? That's going to talk you off the ledge. Mm-hmm. So those are the foundation pieces. As far as systems can be simple, right? Put a checklist together. A checklist of here's how we, have people come into our database. Here's how we do events. Here's how I do my coaching calls. Here's how I work with a lot of coaches and they're winging it on coaching calls. Well, as a consumer, I don't want you to wing it. What's the outcome I'm going to get and what do we need to do to get that? Let's just map it out. And it could be as simple as a checklist. It doesn't have to be this extravagant system. It scares people when you say systems, right? The reality is it doesn't have to be that complicated. It just has to be documented so you're not making it up every single time.
Yeah, that's so important.
And look at your emails. How many times are we emailing the exact same email, right? So I have a system. I have what we call canned emails, right? But for every challenge, obstacle that someone's going to email my business, what are the frequently asked questions and what are the should ask questions? So my team has that. Here's how I would answer this. So I'm not leaving it to my team's own discretion. They can add their own secret sauce, but here's what I would say when you're handling this. Mm-hmm. That's a simple system, but that's going to save time, money, and breakdowns, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that you pointed out some really important things. And the very first thing you talked about was turning your wanters back on. And because we go throughout our life hearing no's all the time, we just stop wanting things. And that makes so much sense. And so when you build out that plan, that's your chance to want. That's your chance to, dream and create that vision. And then you discuss starting with that where you are today and right, at that moment for you, it was, I got to put food on the table. I got to pay my bills. I got to support my children. And then almost building up to that dream by adding in those next level motivators or little what would be nice to have next so that you can get there. And I love that.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I want to touch on the kind of general pattern that I see in, before I start working with some of my clients, and even in talking to some peers, I think a lot of people just want to completely outsource the financials of their business and outsource looking at the finances. And they think that, that's possible because we talk about outsourcing a lot. And I want to kind of turn it over to you and ask if you think, as a business owner, especially a business owner running a, multi-million-dollar business, is it possible to 100% outsource everything that has to do with money? And I ask this because I think so many people have this fear around money and looking at it and understanding, all those business spreadsheets and financial reports and whatnot. So what is your reaction to those who want to just if it's possible to 100% outsource that, and for those who want to do that?
Well, this is a juicy, loaded question, Tess. I love. Thank you for asking it. So here's one. If I did not have the fiscal responsibility, I would not have made money in my business. So yes, someone can, I have a bookkeeper that inputs data.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at my finances. I'm looking at my profit and loss. I'm looking at my income. I'm looking at my financial projections every day, every week, every month. And so, I had a goal in my past relationship, and we were going to save X amount of money, and here was our budget. Here's what we were spending. And every month we would sit down and we would go over the budget. Mm-hmm. Now, I can make a ton of money, but I can also spend a ton of money. So I was the spender, he was the saver. And so we would sit down And what was beautiful about that relationship is he never made me wrong. He just had me question. So we would sit down, we'd look at the P&L, we'd look at our personal spending, and we're like, listen, we said we had a goal that we were going to save. At that time, it was $1,000 a month. And I just want you to note that your American Express is $1,200 a month. And when I look at the expenses on there, there's probably $300 that's business expenses, and the other amount is personal stuff. And so I just want, what's our commitment and what's our goal? Oh, Tess, that was a hard conversation because I want to be righteous. I want to make him wrong. Like, I'm working hard and I'm doing all this work. He's like, it's okay if you spend it, but then we need to change our goal and our agreement. Mm-hmm. So accountability is huge for you and huge for your business, because I was being disrespectful to what the goals were. And even in my current business, I have a goal, 10% I pay myself, 10% I put in my profits. In my investments, and then 10% is in my profit. So that's 30% of the money is coming to me in some way, shape, or form. But I'm breaking it down, so I'm just not saying 30%, right? I'm looking at what area. Then I'm looking at from my paycheck, 50% of my paycheck goes into a savings. So now I'm looking at that every month. Did I do that? Did I not do that? If I put it in savings, did I take it out of savings? Why did I do that? I'm questioning it all the time because I have my own financial goals. Mm-hmm. Right? You need to look at where's all the money being spent. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with entrepreneurs that don't want to look at this conversation, that don't want to be responsible, and then they're being embezzled. Right? I have a client that he had $800,000 embezzled. And he never knew. There was so much money going through his business. It wasn't until I'm looking at the P&L and I'm like, where is the profit? This doesn't make any sense. So I started digging around and looking at his CFO was paying himself. Like when a check would come in, they would have the check go to the CFO versus going to him. But the numbers didn't make sense. I'm like, how is it that you did this many events, but we only have this amount of money? It was a puzzle, which I love to figure out. Mm-hmm. And to go, that's $800,000. How many years has that been going on? How many years, right? When you're not looking at it. And now I'm talking 800,000, but let's go down to $50 a month. $50 a month for a small business can be a big chunk, right? That's $600 a year. If you do that for 10 years, that's $6,000. That could be a retirement account. That could be money spent on a new home, a car, paying down your home. Like, it makes a huge difference when you're looking at every single thing that you're spending. Like, if you look at me, $1,200 a month on Amex for shoes, right? Because I was trying to fill a void in my life because I was traveling, I was away from home, I was on airplanes. And so this is where I would shop. Test. This is bad. It was just the airport. Oh, I look at those cute shoes that you're paying 10 times more for.
Yeah. But it's duty free.
Right. And, $1,200 a month, you times that times 12. Now we're looking at $24,000 a year. What can you do with that? Mm-hmm. That was the retirement account that we said we would do, that I'm frivolously spending because I want to keep my head in the sand. Mm-hmm. So I think the power in understanding where all your money is going to and questioning it. Are you still using? We do it every quarter. Are we still using these? We've got those auto charges. Are we still service? Do I need that service? There's a lot of money every month going on auto charges. It's a little here and there, but it can add up to thousands every single month. So myself and my business manager are looking at it, on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis to go, are we using that? Are we not using that? I'm looking at the whole P&L on a monthly basis because I just need to understand, right? Where am I spending? Where am I overspending? Am I getting the return on investment? If you have a business coach, a financial coach, there should be a business return on that, a financial return. My sales should be increasing. My spending should be decreasing. And if it's not, something's missing. Either you're not taking the coaching or your coach isn't hard enough on you. Yeah. Yeah. Look, good coaches love that one. Yeah, that's right.
And I think that just, what you stated there it had nothing to do with you reconciling the expenses coming in and like doing the bookkeeping. It had nothing to do with you actively doing your taxes. Like those are the types of things that you can and should, in a lot of ways, because you could save yourself a lot of time and money, outsource. But at the end of the day, you still need to be looking at what's happening, what's coming in, what is going out, and whether those things are even important anymore or not. And you're the decision maker. So you also have to put boundaries, up and around so that you can make sure you're hitting your business as well as your personal goals. I love that you talked about the personal side too, because that's just as important. But for some reason, when we start our business, we like forget that we have personal goals left.
Right. Right.
So I want to go into the money round, and I want to kick off with actually your money story. And so this is specifically around how you came up around money and maybe what you learned about money in your early days, even in your childhood, and whether you learned good lessons or lessons that may have held you back and how you overcame those as you started, especially, going from being a single parent, working in a salon to building multiple $1-million businesses. Did you have any money obstacles, like mindset obstacles that you had to overcome regarding your worth or, being able to charge more or being able to build multiple $1-million businesses?
Yes to all that, right? So I grew up in a military family. There was 9 kids. Bobby, Ronnie, Stevie, Terry, Joni, Shelley, Susie, Kelly, Debbie.
Nice.
We like the IE names.
Yes.
And so we lived in 1,200 square feet. We had 1 bathroom, 6 girls. I have no idea how we did it. When I go back to that house, I look at it, I'm like, where did we all sleep? Where did we all eat? It's such a tiny little house. Mm-hmm. But we did it. So we grew up very humble. Mm-hmm. Right? We didn't know we were poor because we never talked about money. So money was never spoken about. And if you spoke about it, it was disrespectful. Yeah. So we didn't speak about it. There was no allowance, right? I didn't even know allowance was a thing until, I got older and, started talking to clients who were raised. They're like, my parents cut me off. What do you mean they cut you off? Cut you off from what? What does that even mean? Like, they gave you money? It was like, wow, you were so lucky. Right. So we didn't have any money conversations. The one gift that my dad did give me is he said, Sue, you can do anything you want. Just go get a job. Go make the money. So I'm like, I will go make the money. So I was the Avon lady. I was the cookie lady. I was any brochure, anything I could sell, Tess, I was selling it because I wanted the money, right? I wanted some freedom. I wanted to be able to do things, to eat what I wanted to eat. And I'll really tell you why. This is my bigger motivation. Just think about this for a second. Did you grow up with brothers and sisters?
Yep.
How many?
2 brothers and 1 sister.
Okay, so imagine 6 girls, and there's 2 under me. So we shared everything. Everything was a hand-me-down. The only time I got a new pair of shoes was at the beginning of the school year, and they had to last for the next year. Because that was the only thing that we got. Everything else was a hand-me-down. So we would go to the Goodwill. We would go to garage sales. That was our shopping, right? If you could find something for 25 cents or whatever. So I still cannot walk into a thrift store without wanting to gag. It's just like, it's such an emotional response for me. Mm-hmm. So we shared underwear. I have an underwear fetish, and I was trying to figure out like, what is my deal with underwear? Like I have plenty of underwear, like, managing my budget. Why do I keep spending all this money on Victoria's Secret? Well, we shared everything. I realized that the first little money I ever got from a job, I went to the little dime store on the corner, and it was 10 pair for $10. And I felt I hit a jackpot. Oh my God, I have my own underwear. So my money goals came from not having and, wanting something different for myself and wanting to create something that was different. And so each area in my life, I just looked at what do I need to create? And that was the foundation that my parents gave me, which was don't ask us for any because there isn't any. Just go make it yourself. right? So my kids were the same way. I would come home from an event and there would be like traveling and there would be a garage sale and they're selling my stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, well, we needed money. So we're selling it. Like, you can't sell my stuff. But I'm really proud of you for having the entrepreneur spirit. Let's see if we can sell it.
That's amazing. Coming from a place where talking about money was, you just don't do that. And now all you do is talk about money. Did you have any sort of hangups leading into, maybe you had to start talking about money earlier in your business, but did it ever feel unsafe for you?
Yes, I think not so much about money. It was really the worthiness of charging what my worth was.
Yeah.
Right. So I undercharged for years or gave stuff away for years just because I wanted somebody to like me or love me. Right. That whole I'm not good enough. Well, if I charge them less, they'll stay with me. If I charge them less, then they'll be my clients. And the reality is customers don't know. Right. They don't know you're giving them a hookup unless you tell them you're giving a hookup. Right. If you say my normal price is $500, but for you, I'm having a customer appreciation. I'm going to do it for $300. At least let that customer know you're giving a hefty discount. Mm-hmm. Don't just unconsciously give it. One, that makes you responsible for being accountable, going, check me out every time I have a client, I want a discount. Right. And then I realized I started, consulting early on because people said, can you tell me what you do? And I'm like, okay, I didn't know how to charge for that. I just made it up. Mm-hmm. And then I would, the work I would be doing to support them in their business, I'm like, oh, this is way too much work for that. So then I kept just raising my prices because of the amount of work and investment I put into a client. I wasn't doing the least to get by. I just wanted to help people with systems that I had to learn the hard way to go, let me help you. I'm going to do it for you once and then you have to do it for yourself. And that's a lot of work. It's a big lift. Mm-hmm. So slowly I started earning the value for myself. There's a saying that says your net worth will only go as high as your self-worth. That's a juicy one. Your net worth will only go as high as your self-worth. So I've had a personal development coach, AKA therapist, for 30 years, right? As soon as I got out of that abusive relationship, I'm like, I got to figure this out or I'm going to just keep repeating the pattern. Mm-hmm. And so from there, I had to start loving myself and valuing me because I had very little, obviously, if you're in an abusive relationship, you have very little value for yourself, mm-hmm. right? To allow that behavior to continue. But for me, I grew up in that environment and that's what love was. Oh, if they're not yelling at you, they must not love you. Right. So that's a worth issue, right? And a value issue. And that value is tied to money. And so I really had to do a ton of work around valuing myself and valuing my worth and what I'm doing. So when I'm looking at a client, you're not buying me. I'm not buying you, Tess. I'm buying the result that you help me produce in my finances and managing my finances and setting goals. Well, that's what you're selling is we're selling the result that you help people create. We're not selling Tess's hour, 2 hours, whatever the program is. That's irrelevant. Right now, if I'm selling the results I help you, if I can take you from 10,000 to 10 million, you're willing to invest in that. Let's talk about that. Let me handhold you through that process. Now that process all day long, if I give you 10,000, you're going to be 10 million. I'm going to invest that 10,000 all the time. Mm-hmm. So I want people to start looking at what's the result you help people create and a tangible result, right? No matter what you do in your business, even if you're a mindset coach, if I got my mindset right. So for mine, if I did $100 an hour, now I'm $2,500 an hour. I worked on my self-worth. To even say that number out loud to clients as they fall off their chair, I'm like, okay, I'll get back up now. Let's talk about this. And the reality is, if I'm helping people, I have a client that, they're doing 3 million. Our plan is 7 million this year with no more customers. Well, of course, you're going to pay somebody a large amount of money to help you put that strategy together because you don't know how or you would have done it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that you position it, and that is so important to position it as like your client is buying the transformation. They're buying the result at the end of that transformation, and you're going to provide that transformation for them. And it's so much more important to focus on that than focusing on like, oh, well, what is an hour of my time worth? Like sometimes that just gets us so tied into then like, am I enough? Am I deserving? And that kind of takes you down that rabbit hole of getting super tied into even like emotional childhood and your past. And when you think more, I mean, from a more business standpoint of approaching it from your business plan and then identifying the results you can get, and then basically just, looking at that or positioning that for your client as an investment that they're willing to make, and you're charging a portion of what they're going to get, it just makes sense. And it's an easy yes.
Well, and the language, I want people to hear your language because that's very powerful. You're not buying my time. You're buying my intellectual property. So we have to be careful in this industry because they'll say, oh, it's $300 an hour. And they're like, you're not even like, what's your degree? What's your education? I don't even pay my doctor that. I don't even pay my attorney that, right? They start comparing, what do they pay $300 an hour for? Mm-hmm. No. You're paying for sessions, right? This session, this transformation, this result, that's what you're paying for. I'm paying for Tess's intellectual property. That intellectual property that you've studied hard for, that you've created results in your life, that you've been able to turn into a system that's duplicatable so we as coaches then can take it on ourselves. That's what we're paying for, right? That easy profit roadmap, that's what they're paying for. And so each person that listens to this, I want you to look at what's that thing you help people create. I help people create profit. My clients called me the profit coach. They're like, Susie, you know what you really do for us? And I'm like, what? They're like, you help us create profit. You're the profit coach and the profit coach. I'm like, okay, that's a little too far, but I will receive the profit coach.
Yes, absolutely. And I think I'd love for you to speak to the idea. I think a lot of people who are experts in their field and they can do things so well, sometimes they tend to undervalue their own, what they have to offer, because when they think about if they would pay for that, they're like, well, no, because I can just do it myself. And then they think like, well, everyone else can do it too. And yet, obviously not everyone else can do it. And they've just done it so well or for so long, or have like had that, revelational moment where they're able to get from A to B so much quicker that then it almost they start to undervalue their sessions, so to speak, and the results they can get.
Yes, absolutely. So I find this happens a lot in ministry or service-based businesses, right? People are, and speakers as well, right? And speaking is, it's a really good speaker, right? The number one fear in life is public speaking. The number two is death by fire. So most people would rather burn in hell than, stand up in front of an audience.
Yeah.
And so it's understanding, again, I know I sound redundant, but every single coaching call that I'm complete with, I ask the client, what was the value of the call? And I'm not looking for a monetary value. I'm looking for what did they get that wasn't present the hour before? And so when you start looking at that every call, every time, you start seeing a trend, right? I give clarity. I give peace of mind. I get a strong strategy plan. I can see where the money is. These are just some of mine, right? I feel like I have team. I'm not doing this alone. Then you start monetizing that. And then that can also speak to your marketing campaigns, because ego gets in the way, feeling like, well, to me, God gave me this gift. I can see money everywhere. That's a gift that I have, right? So in the beginning, I wasn't valuing as much. And I had this whole conversation, Tess, because I'm a hairdresser, right? And so I've tried to prove myself because I don't have the piece of papers on the wall. And the reality is let's look at the results you create in your own business and your own life. And if you are not creating them in your own life, in your own business, then you need to do your own homework, because you can't tell somebody how to do something if you're not walking the talk. I have to walk my talk. The tongue in my mouth and my tongue in my shoe have to go in the same direction. And there's so many consultants out there that are teaching theory, and any business person knows when that's bullshit. It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't work. Because if you're walking your talk, you're going through, like right now, the financial turmoil, what's happening in the market. If I'm walking my talk, I'm knowing how to correct it because I'm living it every day, right? There's theory and then there's practical. So I need to make sure that whatever we're doing, that you're your best client. I'm my best client, right? So I'm telling my clients and I'm sharing the breakdowns and the breakthroughs so they feel like they're not alone. Right. I think so many times consultants, we sit on this mountaintop and let me just share the high highs. Well, my clients have the bigger breakthroughs when I tell them when I lost $10 million. Right. Now, if you can get up off the ground after you lose $10 million, it took me 20 years to build that, Tess. And then to go, okay, I got to get back up. I don't want to get back up. I want to stay in bed and put the covers over my head. What I do know, I lost it, but I also rebuilt it. So if you can do that, and then I've done it for my clients, hundreds of times. Yeah. So I'm walking my talk, but they learn more when I talk about the bounce back to get back up after that financial hardship. In 2007 when the market crashed, we all crashed. I just happened to crash, burn, and fry. Right. I used to could not tell a story and not cry. Now I can laugh because, there's so much time, but there's also the healing, and I just rebuilt it. Yeah. I know the system of money. I just need to follow my own coaching. Be your best student first, because then you can speak to the result, not theory of you need to get mind right. You need to get your checkbook right. You need to get your business right. Get your business right first. It starts with me.
I think you put two really, really good lessons in that response. And just to back out of it, the first one, and these are specifically really powerful for those, for anyone, but especially if you're just starting your business or you're just like, you have a couple clients, but you're really not sure how to position yourself. Being your first and best client and just like coaching yourself and then showing that, that's a great strategy from a marketing standpoint, is just to show how you coach yourself. And then others can get to know how how you would coach them. And then the other question that I'm going to start using in my coaching calls is, what was the value of the call? Because sometimes you don't know if people got, when you get off a coaching call, you don't know if someone got value out of it. And then you just spend the next month ruminating on whether the client got value out of it or not. And if you just simply ask and, also give them the opportunity to paint that picture for themselves and for you. And then there you go. There's some great marketing for you. Someone's going to call you a profit coach and you can take that and run with it. And so
right.
You're marketing to the language of your clients too, which are ultimately similar to your potential ideal clients who are also out there waiting and ready to buy. So thank you. I am highlighting that super bright, and everyone needs to write those two things down. I want to go into the quick and dirty Q&A. These are just a few fast-paced questions to wrap up the show. And before I do, Susie, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing so much of your brilliance. You're very wise, and you just, you give it to us straight. And so we're very appreciative of that. So before we go, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. And the first one I want to know is something that separates Susie, the person, from the profit coach. And that's just what is one random thing, something in your life that's outside of business that you've just been kind of obsessed with, or you just can't stop thinking about lately?
This is going to sound corny, but I'm going to say it. So two things. One is my children, because of the tumultuous start in their life, who they are as women now is breathtaking. It moves me to tears right now. Just, I never left my children behind. I put them in my business. I involved them in everything. And my youngest daughter is a mom now. And to see her as a mom and a loving mom. And my oldest daughter is an equity investor, so they have both of me. But to who they are as women contributing to the world is profound.
I love that.
As a mom, my heart is full. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's beautiful.
When you live your life in a place of integrity and commitment and family, the world gives you back integrity, family, and commitment. Mm-hmm. And so my journey has been to help my children and help other women own their greatness, charge what they're worth, know that we can do anything in this world. No one can stop us. It's your choice, right? This was my choice, all my choices, the bad ones, and I made some bad ones and the good ones. And to see who my children are in the world is like, phew, I did a good job. It's what every parent wants to see, right?
Yes.
And then, but then now my daughter has children, and I am not that G word that everybody calls that lady. I am the GG, because this, when you see my picture, is not a grandma.
Absolutely.
So just, I didn't grow up with a grandma, or grandparents. So just to be able to see, wow, what a blessing. It truly is. And to be able to see the next generation and what we as women, the influence we have on our families, the influence we have on our communities, the influence we have in the world is profound. 40% of small businesses now are owned by women. But we have to be responsible for that and be the badasses that we are.
Yeah. You're probably, your grandchildren are going to grow up and be like, yeah, that's my grandma. She's a badass.
But Gigi, call me
my Gigi, excuse me. I love it. What's something that you like to do to separate yourself from your business and get out and indulge in life?
Oh, so, it's still kind of a business, but we do it. So we invest in real estate, and we just bought a house on a lake up in Oregon. And so we're rehabbing that, remodeling that, but that'll be our secondary home. And it's also an investment strategy. So it is my getaway, and it's also, setting my financial future up. And then I am a spin queen. I love spin class. That's my Zen place. I love getting sweaty and, having fun. That pulls me away, balances my, cortisol, says all this stress. And really, Tess, the work starts for me when I stop working. I love, love, love what I do. This isn't work for me. Having this conversation, making an impact, making a difference. This is not work. This is like, oh my gosh, I get to talk to my sisters. I got to be able to make an impact. I really have to work on the other stuff and, put more balance in there. The delusion of balance, right?
Right, exactly. What's the best piece of money advice that you've been told that you'd like to pass along?
So I learned this when I was 23 and have been doing it since, and I'm seasoned, so it's been a while. And that's pay yourself first, take 10% off the top and put it in your investments, whether it's saving account or an investment account. And that has been, even when the bottom fell out, I was still investing in my future. So it's making sure that you're investing for the long haul and the long game, because someday I'll never comes. We have that fantasy island. Someday I'll buy this house. Someday I'll invest. Someday I'll pay my debt off. Someday I'll is a fantasy island. The someday I'll is now, so pay yourself for your future first, and then everything else after that.
Amazing. Susie, thank you so much again for joining us today. I'd love for you to tell us where we can find you, how we can stay in touch, and I think you might have a little goodie for us as well.
Oh my gosh, I have so many goodies for you. You're just going to love it. So I come bearing gifts, so I want you to know that. And so when you go to our website, and it's Suzy Carder, Card as in dinero, ER. There's a 10-point of business assessment there that you can really look at, where's my business now and what do I need to focus on? I just need like a roadmap, right? Give me the tool, give me the it. So on our website, there's courses there. You can see our blog there. Every month I do Susie Snacks. That's a bite-sized information for your cocktail for success, just to keep you motivated and keep you going. But what I'm most excited about is I have a new book coming out. This is book number 10, Tess. Very
amazing.
Simon & Schuster's publishing it. It's called Power Your Profits, How to Take Your Business from 10,000 to 10 million. It's my journey of doing it wrong to doing it right. I share the down and dirty secrets of what I did wrong, what I did right to build several multi-million-dollar companies. So you can go to poweryourprofitsbook.com. You can pre-order it. I've got a ton of juicy bonuses. Again, it's my way of serving the community. I want to give you from my overflow and teach you, the lessons that I had to learn the hard way. You'll make other lessons, but I don't want you to, to learn these lessons. So if I can support you in that, that would be amazing.
Awesome. We can't wait to get our hands on that. And one last thank you for joining us today. It's been so fun to learn from you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And that's a wrap. Episode 163 with Susie Carder. You guys, if you loved this episode, I challenge you to take a screenshot, share it on Instagram, tag me at Tess_Wicks. Go ahead and tag Susie as well at Susie Carder. And share what you loved or what you learned or what your takeaways were. Or you can even just take a picture of your notes and post it on the gram or post it on Facebook. I'm at Wander Wealthy over there. But we want to see what you took away from this episode. And I want you to know that if you want to get at any of the resources Susie mentioned, the link to one of her trainings or the link to pre-purchase, pre-buy, what is like the action of pre-purchasing, I guess it'd be pre-purchase, whatever, to get her book while it is on pre-sale along with all the bonuses that she discusses. I will link those all up in the show notes at wanderwealthypodcast.com/podcast/episode 163. Now, before you go, I also have a super spicy, juicy, amazing treat for you. I have been working day and night tirelessly on a pricing workbook. You guys, I remember when I started my business for the first time and I was like having to price my service. No, that's not how it went down. I basically was offering things and people were like, okay, how much does it cost? And I was like, what do you mean, how much does it cost? Oh, I need to price my services. How the hell am I going to do that? And I just have to say that when you're running your own business, especially if you're an online coach, especially if you're an online money coach, it can be really hard to put a price tag on what you're offering. And so I whipped up the exact workbook that I would have died to have in my hand so that I could run through what I needed to, the exercises I needed to, make sure I'm taking everything into consideration when pricing my services. And I include a lot of things from a mindset perspective that you really need to be thinking about pricing, because there's so many ways that you will self-sabotage, you will undercut yourself, you will undervalue yourself. And girlfriend, we don't want you doing that anymore. So I have this amazing, right now it's free. It's not going to be free forever. So if you want to get your hands on it, you can get the guide, the workbook. I'm still deciding what to call it, but you can get it by going to wanderwealthy.com/workbook. Again, I will link it in the show notes, but you need to get your hands on this because it will be the most valuable free thing you have downloaded this year. And I want you to go through it start to finish and use it to inform your prices, because you need to make sure that you are pricing your services or your products if you have products, but you need to make sure you are including everything that is pertinent to running a business in there. So you're going to learn about my pricing formula, how I back out of my prices to make sure that I am including everything, and how I make sure that I'm not undercutting or undervaluing myself. And you shouldn't be either. So wanderwealthy.com/workbook, get your hands on it. And I can't wait for that to be the catapult for you to feel super confident in jumping on a sales call and offering your packages and getting your first or your 10th or 20th clients. And when you get this workbook, again, share it with your friends, share it with people who you know are going through this business building journey with you. And I can't wait to see what you do. So wanderwealthy.com/workbook. And until next time, you guys, I hope you wander wealthy.